In today's episode of Beyond the Hedge, we started off by meeting with Craig de Necker of the Friendly Plant at a Pretoria garden he designed. This garden, with its strong structural lines, focal features and soft planting, is best observed and appreciated from above. It's amazing, from here you can actually see the pattern of the garden, and it fits in very snugly into this space.
It took quite a lot to actually get everything lined up the way it should be, and especially because of the big flagstones, you don't want to have weird cuttings in strange places. So it's quite a painstaking thing to actually get it marked out correctly, and then working in the space, trying not to trample what you've just planted. But this is one of the nicer views, because you get to take in everything and see the full effect. Also, if the kids do play hide and seek, this is how you find them.
Yeah, you have to have the above view of the maze, absolutely. But it is a case of a very strange shaped garden, because it's got a diagonal. It's not just a square garden, which is usually quite easy to work with, but I think you've proved here it's quite easy to make something look really fantastic in a strange space.
We quite often, the bounds of the area that we're working in define the structures and features and the layout of the garden. So the space almost dictates to you in a way what should be done or how things should fit in. And then the client's wish list in terms of water features and pools and pathways and fire pits, that comes into the mix, and you kind of at the end of the design process, you end up with something that fits perfectly with the client's lifestyle and the specific space that you're working in.
The thing is to also bear in mind the modulation of the house. You can't have things which are off-centre. It makes it very uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And that was one of the challenges with this garden, because there are a number of access points from the patio area as well as from the walkway in. So if visitors come and they want to access the garden immediately, you've got to provide for that, and then that's still got to line up with the plunge pool. It is quite a challenge to get everything to line up properly, because even if we go to great lengths to design everything properly on the computer before we start, but they always fine-tuning adjustments that one does on site when you start physically installing. It doesn't matter how well you plan it or how well you measure it, there are always little fine-tuning adjustments that one has to do.
Yeah, and then there's also plants that get bigger than you expected them to be.
Yes, absolutely.
It's also nice to have something that does double duty, like the fountain, which, as you said, I didn't realize until now is also a plunge pool.
Yes. So it's nicely raised out of the ground, which gives you a sort of impromptu seating space. That makes getting in and out of the pool a lot easier. You don't have to commit to jumping in. You can quite comfortably sit down and swing over. And what's nice is being in an environment where you're not on a farm in the middle of nowhere. You've got other people around you in an estate. So what happens with any kind of moving water, it creates that white noise. So it's relaxing and calming, but it also helps kill any outside noise. If there is traffic or neighbors making a noise, it largely gets rid of that.
But this garden, because of the way that it's been set up here, and it's slightly higher than the surrounding outside, you feel this is all mine. This whole space is my garden. It's a fantastic thing to borrow.
It's basically borrowed scenery if you look beyond the final hedge there, because it does feel like it is all part of this property. It's especially when you're in the lower levels. When you're up here, you can every now and then you'll see someone's head popping out amongst the plants. But when there's no one walking there, or if you're on the lower levels, it very much feels like everything that you see beyond the hedge is yours.
Craig mentioned the owners love colour, and in the warmer months they introduce annuals. But colour can also be introduced through foliage with great success. I popped into Colourful Splendour to look at some perennial options. Now, when it comes to perennials and getting colour into the winter garden, you don't always have to go for flower colour. Obviously in winter there's not that much which gives you that kind of colour. However, why don't you just look at foliage colour? There's so many different varieties available these days, including all these wonderful alternantheras which come in these deep reds. I mean, this is a really wonderful ruby colour. And an old-fashioned favourite, the tricolour, which has got the green, the maroon colour and some green. It gets tiny little flowers, but the flowers aren't the important thing when it comes to having colour in your garden, especially with these particular ones. Have a look and see. Coleus, obviously, for summertime are fantastic in a shady area. They'll get those bright greens and the reds and everything, but not really going to last throughout your winter time. You can also go for all your silvers. I mean, I love this correspondence here between the lamb's ear and alternanthera, the silver and the red, the deep red together, just really make a kind of warm and inviting space. And of course, you can get your little Santolinas, which will come in too. Fantastic. all these grey colours, and this one, which I've never seen before, to be honest with you. You can see the flower here. This is actually a lobelia with purple leaves. Now, I've seen the lobelia, the normal one, which either get these kind of lightish purple blue flowers or the very, very dark blue flowers, but never this particular variety. It's absolutely stunning. You can imagine popping that into the area somewhere, and you've got the foliage colour which is coming forward more than anything else. And then convolvulus. Now, convolvulus, we're used to having the ones that droop over walls and have those beautiful blue flowers or the purple flowers. This one shimmers in the light with this beautiful light grey silver colour on the top side of the leaves. I mean, why not go for something like this instead of ordinary colour? After the break, I visit a garden that features running water, a dam and a structured vegetable garden.